Hey there, in this video let's talk about API hubs in the context of environments, or the other way around. We've published our API, our first API, the Snowpal API, on a few different hubs at this point, right? And I've shared this in one of the earlier videos as well. AWS Marketplace is one of them. Next is Blobber. We've also published that our API on the Rapid public marketplace, and probably might end up doing it in a business hub if they end up supporting that. And we have it on Open API Hub, right? These are the 4 hubs that we have supported. We have published our API at this point, and there's more coming. Kong is probably the next one. But the two most important from our perspective, the top of the list is AWS Marketplace. And next it's going to be Blobber, right? And depending on where our consumers want to be in terms of how they want to consume our API, we would point them in one direction or the other. Now, that's great, but there are things that we've noticed and learned along the way that I want to share, but in this video particularly about environments or lack thereof from an API hub standpoint. So the API, let's say we have like at least 4 environments for all of our products, like for the web app, for the mobile app, and so on. That's our preference, like development, test, staging, and production. Nothing new, pretty standard stuff. But the API hubs do not support a notion of environments. None of them, actually speaking, right? Not one of them. I don't know why. I can see there's some complexity in them supporting this, but it's actually honestly surprising to me that none of them do at this point. So we have a different way to solving. We've approached the problem differently for each of these hubs, because they're all slightly different from each other, right? Sure, they support, they have commonalities because they're solving the same problem, but they need to be different enough so there is a value add and unique selling proposition, right? So it's totally understandable that they intentionally try to keep things different, even if it's a little bit more painful from a consumer standpoint of you publishing your API on their hubs. So let's start with AWS Marketplace. AWS Marketplace, the way you do it there is you go create a SaaS product. In our case, we've created a SaaS product. We have actually 3 of them, 3, almost 4, right? But the reason we only have 1 product in production at this point, but we have the other 2 actually at this point to serve the purpose of environments, right? The lower environments. We have 2, not 3 more, for a different reason. But let's say we have a total of 3. 1 production product, which is the only thing you will see when you go search for us on AWS Marketplace, or if you go to aws.snowpal.com, it'll take you there. The other 2 are private, and we have them pointing to our lower environments, dev and test. Test serves the purpose of staging as well. We have to do it that way because we have to go through the approval process for getting all of them approved. One of them is completely approved. Shout out to Ben at AWS. Thanks, Ben, for helping us out during the course of this process. It's very much appreciate your help. So the product is out there, right? It's live. The other 2 are in limited mode, which means you don't get to see it when you search for it, and it's serving the purpose of the lower environments. So we have them configured. It still has to go through an approval process at AWS, but it's not approved all the way through because we don't care for the internal language, the description, the links, and the pricing and all of the other things, because nobody else is going to be even seeing it. But we still need to do it and get those approvals so we can have those environments, them pointing to our lower environments, so that all of the mapping works correctly. So that's how we've done it on AWS, right? So there's 3 different products. 1 product in production, the other 2 in limited mode. Now let's go to Blobber. Actually, let's come to Blobber later because it's kind of very different from the others, even the other 2. Let's go to Rapid next, right? So with Rapid, same thing. They don't support a notion of environments, but what you can actually do is create multiple API products. The way you create them is different. Again, every hub is different, but regardless, you go create the product, the API, and then you don't publish that, right? You don't publish that, and there isn't particularly an approval process with Rapid either. It's a public marketplace. There's other issues, but let's take to it in a different video. You create 2 of them, you point each of them to your lower environment, you name it accordingly, right? We just have a convention, we have a square bracket dev, square bracket test, and staging, and so on. Again, that is not published, it's hidden or private, and it's pointing to our lower environments, the URLs and whatnot, right? So that's how we've done that on Rapid. So it's kind of similar to what we've done on AWS Marketplace, but it's just the process is different, the way it looks is different. If I go to OpenAPI Hub, I'm trying to recall, that's the last thing we did, and we only spent like a half a day to get it on there. I'm pretty certain it's exactly the same, right? There's no real difference. But there are some things I do want to talk about actually, right? I missed one thing conveniently, but not intentionally, but I'll come back to it. But before we do that, let's go through this initial discussion, right? So OpenAPI, you can assume it's very much like Rapid. In the case you create 3 different products, you don't publish the other 2 to production, you just use them internally. With Rapid, actually, let me go back. I think I need to explain something before I go to Rapid. So with AWS Marketplace or Rapid or OpenAPI Hub, we are able to test test the products that are not live, right? The lower environment products, the ones that are limited mode. Like AWS Marketplace calls it limited, Rapid might call it private, and so on with OpenAPI Hub. But we are able to hit those endpoints as providers to test it alongside our lower environments, right? Exactly the way we would, not exactly, but that works for us, right? We can test it, that's our intention. With Blobber, it's different, right? Blobber has a nicer, look and feel, so it's better in other ways, which is why that's the second place we would point you to after AWS Marketplace. But they don't, let's say we publish one product on Blobber and we've created these other ones, but the problem is there is no way to test it even as a provider unless you publish it. And even when you do publish it, it's kind of weird. You're going to have to test it after you publish it. You sign up as a subscriber yourself to test it just to see if things work fine. Now, before we published it, we did our due diligence through other ways so we could actually test those changes, but the hub itself doesn't natively support it. That's a problem. Now, with the lower environments, even though we have these other products, there is no real way for us to test it without publishing it, and we cannot publish it because we publish it, there's going to be multiple products, and the subscriber is going to be confused, and it doesn't make sense, right? Why would you have multiple products, and that's not even the purpose. So there are ways we've thought about at this point. We probably might have a second product which doesn't have all the endpoints, probably has like 10 endpoints, like instead of 400 it has like literally 10, and it's probably a sample, and maybe it points to a lower environment, and it's for the purposes of our testing, internal testing, but we have to kind of publish it out there. So we have to present it to the subscriber as though it's a product that we, it's like a preview or a trailer, right? Or a preview. So they're like, hey, here's a preview. It has its own API keys, points to its own in lower environments, but somehow we don't have our subscribers hop on that one, or even if they did, they can only use those 10 endpoints, right? We have to come up with a strategy for that. But all of these are, as you can imagine, workarounds, because these API hubs do not do not support the notion of environments, which is extremely painful at this point. But it is what it is, and you got to get going. So this is how we have done it on these 4 hubs that I speak of. As we onboard on others, we'll see how it goes. But we have a pretty, I know we are new. We're only a few days in. We haven't even started our campaign, marketing, and reach outs to businesses and whatnot. So it's just real early stages. We just brand new. We've just gone live. So there's a lot more coming and a lot more learnings to come, and I'll keep sharing it with you, and hopefully it benefits you. And if you have any specific questions, don't hesitate to hit me up, right? The best way to learn is surely by doing it yourself, but sometimes someone else has done it and is willing to share their 2 cents, and if it's going to save you hours of time, I think it doesn't hurt to reach out to them. So talk to you soon. And before I forget, check out developers.snowpal.com, sign up, get an API key, and then build whatever it is that you want to build. Best wishes. Thank you.